name is Michelle Robert, and I'll be your tour guide for today. This museum is called George Washington's Lifelong Artifacts, also known as a GWLA. This museum is solely dedicated to George Washington and his accomplishments all throughout his life. There will be 8 artifacts relating to George Washington that you will get to see and experience today. Now, here are the rules. Please do not touch any of these unless I specifically say you can, because these are quite old and fragile. Also, please be respectful of this museum by not eating or drinking during this tour. In order to make sure everyone gets to enjoy this, do not talk while I'm talking and giving the tour guide, so others can enjoy and obtain all the information I have given. Please, before we all start, silence all your phones or put them on vibrate, and make sure your camera's flash is off, because we do not allow flash photography. But most of all, make sure you enjoy. In the American Revolution, George Washington was unanimously voted as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. This painting resembled General George Washington and his Continental Army as he crossed the Delaware River and ambushed the Hessians. The Battle of Trenton took place on December 26, 1776, during the American Revolutionary War, after General George Washington's crossing of the Delaware River north of Trenton, New Jersey. The main importance of the battle was that George Washington's Revolutionary Army was able to defeat the Hessian soldiers, and this greatly improved the morale and recruitment of Washington's army. Despite the battle's small numbers, the American victory inspired rebels in the colonies. Also, the dramatic victory inspired soldiers to serve longer and attracted new recruits to the army. The Battle of Fort Necessity, or the Battle of the Great Meadows, took place in 1754 in what is now the Mountain Top in Fayette County, Pennsylvania. The engagement was one of the first battles of the French and Indian War and George Washington's only military surrender. Late afternoon, May 28, 1754, a shaken and exhausted 22-year-old Lieutenant Colonel George Washington of the Virginia Militia returns to their encampment of the Great Meadows after the skirmish at Jumonville Glen Brook. His mission to seize the forks before the French get to it has been compromised. His Native American support has abandoned him after murdering the French commander and signed Jumonville in cold blood right in front of him. To make matters worse, it is starting to look like Jumonville's group may have been seeking a parley with the British, not looking for a fight. Even though his first military action fits the definition of a victory, it didn't go well. His next one would be a complete disaster. The Battle of Yorktown was a military conflict between the Kingdom of Great Britain and its 13 colonies in North America during the American Revolutionary War, which lasted from 1775 through 1783. The year and the date that the Battle of Yorktown took place was on Tuesday, October 9th, 1781. The battlefield in which the British and American forces fought during the Battle of Yorktown was located in Yorktown, Virginia. The Battle of Yorktown ended in a victory for the American colonists. On October 19, 1781, the British laid down their arms and surrendered. General Cornwallis had surrendered to Washington along with the rest of his army. The British army was decimated, and the American Revolutionary War was virtually over. George Washington's farewell address is a letter and speech written by the first American president, George Washington, to the people of the United States. Washington wrote the letter near the end of his second term as president, before his retirement to his home, Mount Vernon. In this address, Washington gave 3 statements to ensure that the United States of America will continue to be an independent and prosperous country even after his presidency. He told America to avoid permanent foreign alliances, avoid political parties, and stay neutral through wars and anything else that comes America's way. Also, George Washington also mentioned that he did not want to run again for a 3rd term for his presidency, and he was against it. This artifact is George Washington's vest. We found this in his home, and we have stored it in the museum. You're allowed to touch it, but you have to be very careful because it is fragile. This vest was worn by George Washington during the Constitutional Convention and many other countless times. The Constitutional Convention was a meeting consisting of George Washington and other delegates trying to fix the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation, also known as the AOC, was the first known as the Constitution of the United States, but it had many weaknesses. as to why the Constitutional Convention occurred and met in Philadelphia. They met to fix the AOC's weaknesses, such as not having a chief executive, and many feared that the national government wasn't strong enough. That is why George Washington had to meet up in the Constitutional Convention to fix the AOCs, but they ended up making an entirely new document known as the Constitution. The Constitutional Convention, also known as the Philadelphia Convention, the Federal Convention, or the Great Convention at Philadelphia, took place from May 25th to September 17th, 1787, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to address problems in the governing of the United States of America, which had been operating under the Articles of Confederation following independence from Great Britain. Although the convention was intended to revise the Articles of Confederation, the intention from the outset of many of its proponents, chief among them James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, was to create a new government rather than to fix the existing one. In the Constitutional Convention, George Washington had used this gavel to preside over it and make the new amendments. The delegates elected George Washington as president over the convention. The result of the convention was the creation of the United States Constitution, placing the convention among the most significant events in the history of the United States. The first Bank of the United States was needed because the government had a debt from the Revolutionary War, and each state had a different form of currency. It was built while Philadelphia was still the nation's capital. Alexander Hamilton conceived of the bank to handle the colossal war debt and create a standard form of currency. Up to the time of the bank's charter, coins and bills passed by state banks served as the currency of the young country. The first bank's charter was drafted in 1791 by the Congress and signed by George Washington. However, the first national bank did not survive, and in 1811 Congress voted to abandon the bank and its charter. But here is a dollar bill from today, and it has George Washington on it, and shows proof of the national bank and their currency. Eventually, all the states in America had the same currency, known as dollar bills and coins. George Washington believed that the federal government remained strong enough to prevent state or regional interests from gaining too much power. He demonstrated this belief in his reaction to the Whiskey Rebellion of 1794. In this incident, the people of western Pennsylvania staged a violent protest against the federal government's enforcement of a tax on whiskey production. You may be asking yourself, why were farmers so interested in whiskey? Good question. Whiskey is an alcoholic drink made from corn. The farmers grew the corn to make the whiskey. Washington ordered nearly 13,000 federal soldiers into western Pennsylvania to crush this rebellion. In his 1796 farewell address, Washington restated his objection to the rise of powerful state and regional interests. Thank you for visiting the George Washington's Lifelong Artifacts Museum, also known as the GWLA. It is a pleasure to be your tour guide, and I hope to see you all come again. Make sure to invite your family and friends next time. This now concludes our tour. You may go back and revisit artifacts again if you would like. Thank you for your patient entrance. If there are any questions, you may ask me now, and I'll be more willing to help.
I have one.
Oh, yes?
I heard that George Washington had wooden teeth. Is that true?
Actually, he did have false teeth, but they were not made of wood. As a matter of fact, the materials used in his false teeth were probably more uncomfortable than wood.
Maybe.
Yeah?
Did George Washington chop down a cherry tree?
Probably not. The story was actually invented by Parson Mason Weems, who wrote a biography of George Washington shortly after his death. Since little is known about Washington's childhood, it is more likely that that won't be true. Any more questions?
One.
Oh, yes?
How many kids did he have?
Oh, good question. Well, actually, none. George Washington had no children of his own, although he did raise 2 of Martha's children from her first marriage and 2 of her grandchildren at Mount Vernon.
I have one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What college did George Washington in?
Actually, George Washington didn't go to any colleges. The death of his father was what ended Washington's formal schooling. However, he believed really strongly in education. In his will, he left money and or stocks to support 3 educational institutions, which is good.
Fancy.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I was about to say Mr. Vance. Oh my gosh, I don't even. I'm so tired. I didn't even know. I just did. Oh shit! Oh my gosh!
The funniest thing I've seen all day. Funny that when I started an orchestra.
Are you recording?
Yes! Hi Priscilla, hi Lydia, this is Sheba.
And hopefully he's not going to show us the class because, oh my gosh, that is not okay.
Go to Jason's school.